What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. We have a great episode planned for you all today. We're going to hit on some pretty big NBA storylines going around the league, and of course, we're going to give our Week 10 or Week 11 NFL Game of the Week. But before we get into that, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today?
I'm doing good. It's beautiful right now. It's snowing outside. I have my big window. I'm looking out across the city.
I thought you hated snow.
I like snowfall. I like looking at it. This is going to suck in about 2 hours, but I already went grocery shopping.
I was going to say, where are you going in 2 hours, dog?
I think I see snuggling up with a good book in my future.
Can't relate.
Fair enough.
Okay.
I have to play guitar out in this weather later, so...
You're going out. That's brutal, dude.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be better if it was nice and sunny?
Yes.
Are you gonna wear gloves?
I have this like runner's jacket that like covers half my hand because I need my fingers to play.
That's sweet. You should play in fingerless gloves. That'd be awesome.
That's what I know someone who does that, and it's a great idea. I just don't own any, but it's a good idea. I just use like the runner jacket because it keeps my hands warm. My fingers get so damn cold, but we're supposed to have a space heater. It's a fundraising event, so
right after this recording, I'll be headed down to Phoenix and to the airport, and I'll be going back home to the great Midwest, to Minnesota, and then tomorrow I'll be on the road to Green Bay, Wisconsin, to watch the Thursday night game against the Titans. So that's my plan for got a busy day in front of me after this podcast. But I'm more rattled by two BLAIDEN things that have happened recently. One, I don't know which is crazier. I don't know which of these two things is crazier. Right before the podcast, right before we got on, I saw your QB power rankings from most to least attractive, which honestly, I don't have anything to say about it. I don't agree, but I don't want to sit here and argue with you about it. All I'll say is Derek Carr at number 7 is insane dick riding, is what I'll say.
No, listen. Look up Derek Carr.
No, I'm not looking up Derek Carr hot.
No, I will not.
I'm not looking up Derek Carr shirtless or hot or whatever.
That's not what I was going to say. Just look up Derek Carr with his long hair. That's it. That's all I'm saying. Look up Derek Carr with his long hair.
No, this is bogus because you had Aaron Rodgers like in the bottom half. And if we're going to different haircuts, if we're like assuming they have their best haircut, he's higher than that.
This is...
I'm wrong.
I was reading the quote tweets and just the post in general in awe of the dialogue that was happening.
The comments are hilarious.
I don't know. It's truly one of the only posts that has ever like left me with nothing to say. I have nothing besides that's a crazy post. And the second thing that we just learned about BLAIDEN is he doesn't know what the World Cup is.
I know it exists.
You may have well
you did not know.
You know there was an event.
You did not know that it was countries. You thought like Liverpool played in it. You did not know that it was every 4 years.
Yeah.
Yes. I asked because we were talking about the World Cup and how those two don't care about soccer. So I was like,
my gosh.
I've had fun asking BLAIDEN before asking about baseball questions. So, does he know who Ortiz is? And he said no, or Albert Pujols, and no idea. So this shouldn't have surprised me as much as it did. But I asked BLAIDEN if he knows like one of the favorites, like who is the best team there. And he said, is Liverpool one for the World Cup, which is, I just don't understand. I just don't understand.
Liverpool was the first soccer team that came to my mind.
How do you know Liverpool and
my boss in high school,
England?
The boss of the first job that I worked in high school was a huge Liverpool fan. And every weekend he would like sit and watch Liverpool games when we weren't busy.
Did he ever? Okay. Do you know a Liverpool player then?
No.
Do you know their coach, their manager?
Hell no.
Jurgen Klopp. Oh,
These things I can accept, but like not knowing the like fundamental structure of the World Cup, that it's every 4 years and the countries play in it, is insane.
quite literally the
That
biggest,
is crazy.
Quite literally the biggest sporting event on the planet. So that's how I'm just reeling,
Sorry.
I guess, is in a word. My heart is racing because I've got to catch my flight after this. And I just got hit with the double whammy of Derek Carr is the 7th most attractive quarterback in the league. And I don't know what the World Cup is. So I'm spiraling. I'm on
my bad, dog. Like, you know, I don't know what you want from me.
I'm going to crash my car. I'm going to have a heart attack.
What's that? Chi-Town Hoops.
I'm going to crash my car into telephone pole. Yeah, it's not because I'm sad. It's just because I can't comprehend anymore. You broke me.
Yeah.
You broke me.
I broke Theo. Well, we won't be discussing our Stay Hot locks today, but if you do want to hear our Stay Hot locks, we will be live on Thursday. We're live every Thursday on the AMP app by Amazon, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be doing the Stay Hot locks, talk about a bunch of other stuff. It'll be an absolute fun time. Sometimes we bring some people up we can chat with, other people, so we do that as well. Make sure you download the AMP app, follow Stay Hot there. But let's get in to our NBA tip of the day, brought to you by our good friends over at AG1. Look, it's no secret that I care about my health. How else could I keep up, looking the way I do, doing all the things I do, taking 2 exams in the same week? Like, it's crazy. That's why I want to tell you about a product that I use every day. I started taking AG1 just because, again, I got to keep up my peak physical and mental aptitude. And with just 1 scoop of AG1, you're getting 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced ingredients, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day the right way. This delicious blend of ingredients supports gut health, boosts your immune system, nervous system, energy, recovery, focus, and even aging. For me, I just throw a scoop in a glass of water before I start my day because I feel like it just gives me the energy boost I need to keep on going. And the boost to mental clarity and alertness is really why over 7,000 people have given Athletic Greens a 5-star review. And if you're like me, on a college student's budget, you get all of this for less than $3 a day. And right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/stayhot. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/stayhot to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Guys, do you want to know what the NBA tip of the day is? And I never thought I'd be saying this. Start watching the Portland Trail Blazers because they're good. Like, in what world did we envision this happening?
The world where in our NBA preview episode, I said they'd make the playoffs. So in Theo Ash NBA's world, he always was enjoying some Trailblazers basketball.
They're pretty good. I'm not quite as high on them as you are, but they're exciting. And they've had a lot of things go right for them so far.
They have some indicators that they're about to regress pretty hard, I think. And, at number 1 in the West, obviously that's going to happen. They are, I think, the 3rd worst team in the league when it comes to point differential and wins. All right, which means like they're winning games, right? But they're winning them very close. Yeah. And you may say, what's the problem with winning them close? They are also the, I think, 5th worst team in point differential in losses. So when they lose, they're getting blown out. When they win, it's very narrowly. And in the efficiency statistics, they're closer to middle of the pack than the top. This team is mostly just fine and not I don't know if they're going to hit 50 wins. 40, yeah, sure. Winning record, yeah, sure. But for this to be one of the top contenders in the West, that gets a little bit dicey to me. They don't have much bench scoring. Their defensive rating right now is actually quite good, but you're still maybe a little bit dubious when Nurkic is your center or whoever it is, the interior defense. So But at the same time, they have been injured. We haven't seen any Gary Payton this season, basically. Lillard has missed a couple games. Anthony Simons has missed a couple games. So, and they've had a difficult schedule so far. They've played the Suns 3 times. They've played the Grizzlies. They've played the Nuggets. So it's not unreasonable to think like they can maybe improve in some areas like health and maybe the schedule will lighten up a little bit. And, they can kind of keep going at a pretty good clip here, but there are lots of reasons to believe that they'll regress, but they're the number 1 seed. Of course they will. There's still a lot of wins to talk about with this team and the way they're, especially their wings, Gary Trent and the guy for the Pistons.
Jeremy Grant.
Jeremy Grant. Edit that out. Jeremy Grant are playing.
Nah, if we're keeping in me not knowing about the World Cup, you're not editing that out. Like,
fine.
I think they're interesting. A lot of the difference between some of these old Trailblazers teams and what you're looking at now is that this team is just a lot better built. And I don't know how many times I've brought up, the Trailblazers have just done a ridiculously bad job of bringing in role players who do not fit what they need at all. Now that is not the case. There's no more, we've got Cantor coming off the bench and Melo starting at the 4. They're not doing that anymore. Jeremy Grant, a pickup that I was fine with. I thought it was good, but I thought it wasn't maybe the big splash they needed, has ended up being a really, really good. He's found his role really well. With the Pistons, he's kind of like doing everything and like kind of working out of his range. With the Nuggets, maybe not working enough. With Grant, he's nice because he can move the ball around. And you don't have to give it to him, but you can. It's like it's the good medium spot for it. He pairs well with Dame, and Dame really wanted him to come. So you can tell that those guys fit. But then you got other guys like Shaedon Sharpe has looked pretty good right away.
Oh yeah,
and I feel like there was a lot of talk about how maybe it would take him a little bit longer. And there's a lot of rookies right now who like look good, but are they actually helping you like win NBA games right now? And can they actually be like a plus role player right now? Not a ton of them. Sharpe has been pretty close to that. He's been very, very solid. Simons, I think, has looked really, really good. When they traded away McCollum, it's like, who's going to be the number 2? It's him. And while, Nurkic has been hurt, and I'm not that high on him. Drew Eubanks has done an arguably better job of filling in. And I wonder if they get all healthy, if Eubanks gets some starts here down the road. So I think they're a good team. And you have, like you said, Gary Payton coming back. That'll be a big get for them. Josh Hart deserves a shout out. He's been really, really good for him, even though he's playing like an entirely different role than he was last year.
His playmaking has been kind of off the charts so far this year. And that is not what you think of when you think of, or at least what I think of when I think of Josh Hart. And all of Lillard's shooting numbers have bounced back. And that was the key to all of this. Is last season at age 30 was a bit of dip in production, and then he got hurt. And you had to kind of trust, if you were going to make a positive prediction for the Trailblazers, you had to kind of trust that he was playing through injury, and an abdominal injury wasn't going to really affect him once it's healthy. It's not like it's a knee injury or something deep in the, the ankle or something like that, where an abdomen injury seems like something that with a low re-injury risk and kind of a more unfortunate one. But Damian Lillard's, his points per shot attempt has been crazy good this year. It's basically all rebounded back to where it was before the injury in 2020. And there's not a lot of guys I would want. If you're going to keep things close, they have one of the lowest paces of play in the league. All right. This is a little bit more of a dog fighting, like we'll wrestle you down in the mud type of team than it's been in the last couple of years, right? One of the lowest paces in the league, one of the highest defensive ratings in the league. And that's why there's been these narrow wins. And when it's close in the fourth quarter, like I've said a million times, like give me Damian Lillard. And he's had some insanely clutch moments already so far this year. And if you can just get things close in the fourth quarter, like Lillard, they've got the offensive firepower to close it out. So I don't think yes, there are some maybe reasons to believe they're not going to be. I saw one Twitter account pose the question, are they going to be a 50-win team since they have 10 wins already and they've got guys coming back? I don't know if I buy into them that heavy, but I do buy into them as a playoff team like I did before the season. And I mean, I'm not going to walk back now. It's looking great.
Yeah.
And I wonder because, you look at their guard rotation, I really, really love, and now they've got the wings, and it's like this team is really, really close. I wonder if they become buyers at the trade deadline, because if I were them, I would be at least thinking about it. Like if you're gonna be, kind of in this mode, attack a little bit more. And I think, someone's going to trade for Miles Turner one of these days. Why not? Why not let it be you?
Do you think do you think Miles Turner would be a good addition to Portland? I mean, right now they're bottom 10 in scoring in the league right now, bottom 5 in the West. What does Miles Turner do to really make that? Because that's really what they need. Their defense has been pretty solid. What does Miles Turner add to that offense?
I don't really think that their offense is the problem overall. I would guess. Are they that low in offensive rating, or is it just their pace of play is slow and that their point total is low?
Right.
Yes, they've got a lot of efficient scorers out there right now, and Grant and Simons and Lillard and Sharp off the bench, and even Eubanks and Nasir Little, honestly, too, has been all right from an efficiency standpoint.
I just don't trust their centers in the playoffs, and I would hate for them to have so there's been so many years where it's like I don't trust their centers in the playoffs defensively, but I don't trust anyone on the team defensively. So who cares? If now you've got the rest of the team around there fighting, and I would really hate for them to go out where they just don't have anyone who's a super strong interior defender. And Miles Turner doesn't exactly have a ton of playoff experience. In fact, he's been in the playoffs before. Yes, I think so.
Maybe. I think so.
I don't know. He must have. The Pacers have made the playoffs relatively recent. He's been on there forever, as far as I'm concerned. So maybe that would be something I'd look into. But saying that this team should look for this 3-and-D center is not that interesting of a take. Of course they should, but I'd like to see them be aggressive. That's what I'd like to see. I do think it's worth pointing out that they do have the best shooting luck in the NBA right now, and I do think they will fall back down to earth a little bit. But I also think they're a playoff team.
I think they could use some, if not a center, because I agree with you, Matt. Nurkic and Drew Eubanks is solid right now, but is this team constructed to really make a deep run in the West? I don't know. They could also use some juice off the bench. Their bench scoring, Shaedon Sharp comes off the bench and he's been knocking down shots. His efficiency is crazy, but he's not really creating his own shot. A lot of his shots are assisted right now, which is, not a bad thing at all. And you've seen some flashes that lead you to believe one day he will be that guy. But someone proven who can come off the bench and create a little bit could also, I think, be a boon for this team, because their offense shuts down a little bit once their starters leave the court, even with their slow pace of play. It starts to really, really slow down. So I could see them adding another center or maybe I don't know who it would be. I don't know what team. I haven't thought that deeply about it.
I think they want Gordon Hayward. Actually, if I don't know what their contracts look like. If they had 2 expirings that they didn't really need for Gordon Hayward straight up, they just take the extra year contract. I think both teams would actually be blessed to do that. But I'm not going to push. They should trade for the Hornets. Not so great contracts.
That's something I would do.
Yeah. I actually think the West is kind of, if you're the Trailblazers, okay. So if you think that you cannot make a serious run in the West right now, then give up, because I don't think who are the top tier contenders in the West going into this season right now?
The Warriors and the Suns?
I would say the Clippers.
Okay.
If you see both those teams as of right now, and we'll see how the season plays out, neither of those teams look like they're anywhere close to what we thought they'd be. Both those teams are having major problems. Now, obviously, you have to let the season develop, but the trade deadline isn't for a while. You get another 20 games into the season, it still looks like this, and you're like, well, we could make a big move, but we probably wouldn't even be close enough. Well, then what are we playing for? If you feel like you're not even one really solid trade deadline move away from having a fighting chance for the Western Conference Finals in a year where the top contenders in the Western Conference Finals are not so far not looking like themselves, then give up, because that's not even anywhere close to near enough. Then you're like, well, we're going to be a first round exit no matter what we do. Lame. So yeah, and
like I said, they've played the Suns 3 times. And the results of those games, they beat them the first time by 2 in overtime. The second time, they beat them again on a game-winning shot from Grant, which was a travel, but they still beat them. And then they played them again the next night, and the Suns blew them out by 20. So they're 2-1 against the Suns right now. And it's been close. It's been an overtime game. It's been a buzzer beater and then a Suns blowout. So the point differential there still goes to the Suns, and they probably, or almost certainly, are going to end up the better team. But I mean, you can look at it and say, like you said, Matt, like, well, we could beat this Warriors team. We could beat this Clippers team. Like, the Suns are obviously good, but we beat them twice. Like, and we're probably not going to play them for a while, but we're 2-1 against them. We could probably give them a series, right? So especially if you added some pieces. So yeah, they definitely should be buyers at the trade deadline.
You guys talked about,
I don't think they'd be.
I was
just saying, I don't think they'd be my pick to make the Western Conference Finals or anything, but I think they'd be a tough out, and any good team, if they made a big move, any good team would be very scared that they're going to miss a guy to injuries for a couple of games and blow this series. So
this, I think,
was
that
close.
And this was kind of the plan this offseason was they shed a bunch of contracts. They shed a bunch at the trade deadline last year, shipping McCollum out of there and whatnot, and getting a bunch of guys. And I think they've put themselves in a position to do that this year. I think that's kind of last year. They were going to gauge where they were at with future moves in mind. So it definitely wouldn't surprise me. Plus, how old is Damian Lillard? 31? How many more bites at the apple are you going to have with him? So, 2, 3 more seasons of elite play, 1, 2, 3, something like that. And then it starts to get really dicey. So yeah, I could definitely see it with this team. And yeah, might as well. They're good.
You guys were talking about the Warriors and Clippers really being kind of underwhelming this year. What about the Chicago Bulls, though? I mean, there's kind of a lot of teams that are, for whatever reason, we're through 14, 15 games in the season, and they just don't look themselves. What's going on in Chicago?
6-8 is not that crazy, in my opinion, for Chicago. I think they are just like not that good. I think it's as simple as that. They aren't that good.
When I look at it, the main thing you were worried about was DeMar DeRozan, I think, like regressing from being a bona fide MVP candidate, which was just a crazy season last year. Is like how, and he's been pretty good this year, I think. Like if you, he's created his
very
own.
Good.
Obviously, he's not offering much from beyond the arc, but he's been very good, like creating his own shot at the rim and mid range. He's been one of the very few players who can actually get stuff at the rim for them, which is, I think, their biggest problem. They live on those long mid-rangers. No one shoots more long mid-rangers than the Chicago Bulls, and they don't shoot threes. They don't take that one step backwards and get the extra point on the shot. They've got guys like I don't know what it is about DeRozan where he's like very good at a long 3 and then just will not step one step backwards and shoot, or he's good at a long 2 and just cannot shoot it 3 feet behind that area. I don't know. I don't understand it, but yeah, that's the way it is. And if you're gonna live in that world, if you're gonna live in the long 2 world, you've got to be, very efficient on the rim shots you do take and very efficient on the threes that you do take. And Levine, coming off the knee injury this offseason, he only has 5 dunks this year. He's not been super aggressive around the rim. He has been pretty bad finishing this year, and so has Vucevic, and so has Caruso has offered nothing as a scorer, and Pat Williams
he's been out a long time, hasn't he?
He's been out a long time. He has been out a long time, but he just hasn't offered. He's been good defensively, hasn't offered much as a scorer from an important role player. So they just haven't been finishing at the rim very well for a multitude of reasons. Guys working their way back from injury, not being aggressive, like maybe the spacing because they don't have a ton of shooters makes the rim pretty crowded. So that's kind of where I'm at with this team, is like their ceiling is just not that high. Like I think they can get better than this. Obviously 6-8 is not like an unlimited, could easily be
if they had won one more game,
right,
we'd talk about 7-7 Bulls and we'd be like, well.
Yeah. But I think we haven't talked about them at all this year, and their offense has been a little, it's been bottom half of the league. So it is a little bit, it's worth examining why. And I think it's just guys working back from injury are not aggressive enough right now. Specifically Levine needs to kind of get that aggressiveness back and be dunking a little bit more and be, he's usually such a good finisher, and in this year he just is not. So that's kind of where I'm at with this team.
Yeah, just
but like, what's the ceiling anyway, though? But then, what's the ceiling anyway, though? Like, all of that can happen, and they can be good, and they can make the playoffs. But it's like, well, you know.
Well, I mean, last year DeMar DeRozan like led the league in points, and it's like, are you going to get that?
Yeah, he was. I mean, and that's what I was saying about DeMar. Not that I was like that was fraudulent. More like he just went on such a ridiculous, like once in a career tear.
And at age 32.
Yeah, it's like, it's just, can you expect him to do that again? And he's been great, but there was a time where he was just unbelievable. I mean, I remember we did our big consensus rankings and he was like well within the top 10, or I did like a poll and he was like well within the top 10 at one point because he was playing so good. I think there's just too many problems with the Bulls. There's too many things I don't like. I think LaVine is coming off this injury, and LaVine, as you know, I like him, but he's got to start working back towards it. And he's a guy who is like, you know, very athletic, and that's a big part of his game. So it's a lot of concern. DeMar DeRozan's a very good player, but he's got some weird limitations to his game. Vooch has been their big mistake was Vooch. And yes. that was the slip up. He was the center of focus and had his best years on a hardly playoff team that made him the center of the offense, and then played some really good defense and was really scrappy and made the 8th seed. And they overpaid for him. And right now, Wendell Carter Jr. is better than him, probably. I would say that with mixed confidence. And then, it's really what kills him is not only that he has not been that guy on offense, but defensively, he's terrible. He's a terrible defender. And he cannot handle the pick and roll. So even if you get into the playoffs, it's like, well, you can't trade multiple picks away for a guy who's going to get played off the court like that. It's just not going to work. And I don't envy the Bulls' position, because I don't think you can blow it up. And I think that talk is stupid, because they don't have their pick. It's top 4 protected, but you're not doing that. And there's even if you try to, you'd have, you know how like many trades you'd have to pull off to get that team nearly bad enough roster wise to like, if you're already in the season, you're not doing that.
Right.
I think they'll be able to play, scrape for 40 wins and do all that stuff. And they'll be in the play-ins, and it'll be exciting and fun to watch if you're a Bulls fan. But I see them in the same tier as the Wizards and the Knicks. That's the type of team. They are not, I don't think they're a serious threat to make the second round. However, overall, their defense is actually pretty good. They have a lot of good defenders. This is what's so disappointing about Vooch.
I wonder if they'll go small ball and just like not put him on the court, but they don't really have the shooters to like do that. That is all on Patrick Williams, and it's like
that's where
and he's been up kind of bad offensively, and offensively he has not been like that kind of guy where you want him. Small ball, you think about, oh my God, all this offensive firepower, like you're gonna put up crazy, like you may give up a bunch of points in the paint, but you're gonna be hitting so many shots and you're gonna be kicking out to the wings like so much that it's not even gonna matter. And with Patrick Williams, currently the points per possession on offense for the Bulls is a full like 16 points worse when he is on the court so far this season, their offense. So like, yeah, that's where my mind goes. If Vucevic is such a good defender, or such a bad defender, but their defense is still good, like maybe they could just like get rid of Vucevic and go small ball. But I just don't know if they have the firepower to do that offensively.
Their big situation is truly a disaster, because Drummond being the backup, also not someone you can seriously play in the playoffs. So the ceiling for this team is just so disappointingly low. And it's, I guess maybe that's not that crazy of a take, because, they were getting a lot of hype last year. They were awesome last year until the injuries kind of got with them. And I look at that team and I don't know if I project them to get significantly better. And I don't know if I project them to get significantly healthier long term. I think they can get healthier this season. I think they can still fight to make the playoffs, but it is an uphill battle, and I don't think I would predict them to. I think I would have them on the outside looking in, obviously with like random play and luck making it like totally reasonable. But I'd probably say, even if they'd have to get real healthy to be considered a top 8 team in the East for me.
Yeah, Matt, you were talking earlier about how DeMar was ranking pretty highly in the ranking quiz of last year. Someone who consistently came in dead last is currently top 5 in scoring. And of all of those guys, he has the highest field goal percentage. Can you guess who that is?
That would be
I would say that it's
greatest player of all time.
SGA.
Is he SG1? This is Theo. I didn't mean to steal your wordplay. You put it in the group chat. It was Theo's idea. Is SGA
I didn't even mean it to be wordplay. I just was doing text shorthand instead of typing out is gilgeous-alexander shooting guard 1. I just said SGA SG1. But yeah, I guess that is.
It's great play on words.
Pat myself on the back there.
Common writer W.
Unless I'm forgetting somebody, it's between him, Booker, and Donovan Mitchell. Depending on, of course, this is such an annoying question because it's like, so many plays. It's even more annoying with point guard because who technically counts as a point guard and all that. And I hate that. But am I forgetting anybody off the top of my head?
Paul George,
for
maybe?
Shooting guards. Paul George. Yeah. Paul George is up there too. But he's like another one of those guys where it's like you could count him as a small forward or a shooting guard. Yeah, I'll say this about Shai. I think I'm a big believer in it is too early to say that. You can say it now. If you want to say that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the best shooting guard in the league right now, you will probably eventually win that battle and be right. But we have not seen the consistency in his scoring for me to put him there like we have with Donovan Mitchell, and we've never seen him in the playoffs. That is not enough for me to just go ahead and anoint him after 15 games. No, it's a harder award to win than that. And you don't want to overbuy into hot streaks. However, if you frame it as there may not be another shooting guard in the league that has his combo of defense, playmaking, and scoring, that is a good argument. He is very good. He is right in that top tier.
He has been crazy this year. I would say if the season ended right now, I would say he is a top 3 MVP candidate. It's like his on-off splits are just hilarious. With him on the court, the Thunder are a perfectly respectable team. They're scoring more points than they allow.
Would he be a top 3 MVP?
Well,
if the season ended today, the Thunder would not be in the playoffs.
They would not be in the playoffs, but this team is. Imagine if LeBron was doing that. Okay, the Thunder cannot shoot.
If LeBron was on this team, they'd be in the playoffs.
No, they wouldn't. No, they would not right now.
Prime Bron?
We're not talking prime. We're talking this season. Right. All right. They're like the Lakers. They're like the Lakers in that their role players offer nothing shooting. Nothing. None of them can shoot except for Gilgeous-Alexander. So, and yet still, without any help, he's averaging. The numbers are crazy, man. He's shooting 54% from the field or something like that while averaging 30 points per game. A guard hasn't done that since Michael Jordan, shooting that, having that many points on that efficiency. Meanwhile, according to Basketball Reference, he has a higher block percentage he has higher true shooting than Giannis Antetokounmpo right now. And he is a guard. That is ridiculous. With him on the court, the team shoots 54%. That's fine. They're capable of getting threes. They're capable of shooting from mid-range. They get plenty of steals. Their differential, points per possession, it's higher on offense than the points they're allowing on defense. It's positive. That's good. They are a fine team when SGA is out there. When he is not out there, they just cannot score a basket. All they can do, the mid-range completely evaporates when he's not out there because they have no one who can create their own shot, really. And there's a bunch of three-point shots, especially from the corner, and there's a bunch of rim shots. So they drive, they kick it out, and they shoot, but they never make it. Their three-point shooting is below 30% when he's not out. It's horrible. So he's out there with a bunch of these role players who can't shoot. It's like the Lakers situation. There's Dort and Giddey and Robinson Earl and Kenrich Williams and Trey Mann. And you could say what you want about all of those guys, but none of them are elite shooters right now. It's a lot like the Lakers situation with LeBron. And if LeBron was putting up, an efficient 30 every night and playmaking and defending at this kind of level, everyone would be like, look at what he's doing with these Lakers that can't shoot. They would be like, of course even if they have twice the amount of wins that the Lakers do. So I get that they're not in the playoffs, but to me, I would probably vote Luka as MVP if the season ended right now. But SGA, I mean, this is a carry job, dude. They would not be a functional NBA offense without him. Like, you could say Tatum should be the MVP too. You could throw him in that mix. But without Tatum, they would still have like Marcus Smart and Derek White and Jaylen Brown and Grant Williams and Al Horford. Like, they could throw out that lineup and be completely fine, really. Like, Tatum is playing otherworldly this year. He's been crazy. But when it comes to like most valuable player, most value added to their team, like Gilgeous-Alexander makes the Thunder like fine. Without him, they would be like pretty much a lock for the number 1 overall pick. Although I like Giddey, I like Dort, but they just don't have the offense without him. So he's, to me, I agree with you, Matt. Like, to say he's like, oh yes, 100% better than Booker right now, who we've seen ball out in the playoffs right now. Oh, he's 100% better than Paul George or Donovan Mitchell. Like, it's tough to rank him number 1 for sure, but he's always been efficient. He's always been good. That's the thing, is like, this isn't out of completely nowhere. He's always been an efficient shooting guard and good in these areas. It's just this year he's doing it with volume. So I kind of trust his ability to keep going. I kind of trust his ability to get, and I think once the Thunder figure it out and get to their peak of their power, once they get all their 5th graders drafted, guys who are 5th graders drafted right now, if SGA sticks around, I do think.
I mean, shoot, are they winning too many games?
If it is, well, maybe he's the least valuable player then if he's winning them too many games. But I don't think you can say too many good things about the way he's playing right now. And I agree, it's a short sample size. It's less than an NFL season right now. But man,
right.
his he's really good. He's really good. He gets to the rim like at a crazy. He's could create his own shot. Has crazy defense. He's the whole package, man. He's the whole package.
I think before this episode drops, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to reset the NBA ranking quiz so that it's like a clean slate. If you guys want me to add any players, just like text me, let me know. But I'm going to reset it
away and add them.
And I'll have people retake the quiz and we'll see where SGA ranks.
I'm trying to think if anyone should be taken out of that quiz too. I don't think there should be. We don't have like Ant in that quiz.
No.
That we would need to take out. And we already had SGA. I don't know if there is anyone who's cemented themselves as a top 30 player who needs to be there that isn't there right now. Matt, can you think of anyone?
I don't know. All I know is last year, we were making this and you guys are like, don't put Siakam on there. We were having this debate. So I disagree with a few. I think we
been to that.
Ended up putting him on there.
I don't think
Siakam is so easily a top 30. He should. If he's not, that's crazy.
He should be. Yes, he's unfortunately. As
in fact, I remember the debate being like LaMelo being one of like the borderline guys, and I didn't want you guys to put LaMelo on there over Siakam to save him from unnecessary slander. I disagree with a few of the things that you said. Number 1, Giannis is the MVP right now.
Giannis?
Yes, Giannis is the most valuable player right now, and
I think it's Luka. I think that without Luka, okay. What is the
argument for Luka that his team sucks?
I think that it is. Yes, I think that his team would not be able to score very efficiently at all without him. And when he's out there, I
could say the same thing about the Bucks with no Chris Middleton.
With no Chris Middleton is true, but I do think that as a scorer. Right now, Luka has been better so far than Giannis, and obviously the defense is a huge part of it. But I always feel bad always giving it to bigs all the time because it's always going to be a big.
They need to stop being the most valuable player.
They need to stop, man, because it's like, of course, because there's always going to be the defense, and like a big is always going to be better than a guard when it comes to both ends of the court.
The other thing is that with Shea, the reason why I'm cautious, and I love Shea. 2 years ago, first pick in my dynasty draft, I picked Shea. I love him. I think he will be the first, like the best shooting guard in the league. I agree with like the playmaking, defense, scoring combo. I'm totally on board. However, it is bad practice for NBA takes to like say like, yep, he's better than Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell and Paul George after 12 games, especially when last year he was not efficient from three. So we've got like he shot like 30%. We've got to see it for a little bit longer because shooting luck, especially this early in the season, is still massively helping or massively affecting the way that you would look at teams right now or players right now. And I do think he is a good shooter. I totally do. I think that last year was the fluke and that this year is the real version of it. But let's see it for like a whole season. You know, you got to move players a little bit slower than that, in my opinion. So I would just stay away from the shooting guard conversation altogether until we get a little bit further in this season, if I'm being completely honest. But he absolutely deserves to be in that conversation.
Right. I agree. I don't know if I had to make my top 10 shooting guards list, like he would be number one for this season. Like I totally don't buy into the like, oh, it's empty stats. It's, you know,
no, it's not.
Yeah. Like that I don't buy into. Like this season, based on the body of work he's put forward, like, yes, absolutely. He's been the best. I think that he should be in the MVP conversation the way he's played so far and considering the help that he has and what they would be without him. But I do agree. I think we're on the same page, Matt, that like, yes, 12 game sample size is tough when Booker just had a crazy season and has been to the finals and has kept up, you know, he's played well in the playoffs. So, yeah. And then Mitchell,
Booker
too.
was insane last year. Yeah. And Mitchell is now playing lights out as well. So it's tough. But I wholeheartedly believe that if it was SGA on the Cavs instead of Mitchell, they'd still be sick, right? Still be sick. I don't think that would be too big of a drop off. Oh man, I had something else to say and I just totally lost it. The good thing is like I was talking about SGA versus Levine, and people were saying Levine. That's being too low on SGA. He is solidly better than Zach LaVine right now. I feel very confident about that. I know Levine's hurt, but even when Levine's healthy, that I'm ready to anoint him. And after that, Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell, and let's see it for a little bit longer just for the sake of it. But I get the argument.
Yeah, Matt, Pascal Siakam is not on the ranking quiz.
He was all NBA last year. He is, and he's.
Well, we made this a while. We
made it in the middle of last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that may have been an oversight. That may have been a little bit of an oversight, but yeah.
I don't know. I'll send you guys the current list of guys, and you can decide who to take off and put Pascal on it over.
Is Gobert on there?
He is.
Yes.
I didn't have him as a top 30 player. I don't think it's crazy that he's on the list, but I think it's just not interesting because it's like nobody is going to be like crazy high on Gobert right now. And he's just so different. You're really not arguing about like how good he is versus just like what you think of his skill set. And I don't like it.
Siakam's probably better than Cat.
Gobert discussion at this point.
He's probably better than Cat.
Cat is on the list. Yeah.
Who is also on the list.
Karl Anthony Towns is still a top 30 NBA player. I'd say I feel pretty strongly about that. He's had a rough start to the season, but Anthony Edwards has definitely. At this point,
I think I would take Siakam over Cat. I don't know if that's a crazy take, and I just don't. I agree, Matt, with you.
Yeah,
there was a famous Cat rant.
Siakam over.
No one knows except for us about the Karl Anthony Towns rant that you went on in the Vegas hotel room during Summer League like a couple years ago now. I don't think you ever were that harsh on the podcast. But I agree with that sentiment that he is, not really a great winning piece or someone that you want to build around.
It's just a center who cannot be a strong defender is very, very it's just so hard to build around. You've seen what the Timberwolves have had to do to try to fix that. And then on top of that, offensively, it's like he's great. The analytics are going to love him. Can he really go and take over? Can he go and be like, this is a mismatch. I am scoring every time. You cannot do that. You have to game plan around it. No. And that's the problem with pretty much every tier 2 center. That's why Embiid and Jokic are so far ahead of everybody else.
Yes. But anyway, I digress. Back to the MVP thing with Luka. I just like, they're kind of the same deal with
He's up there.
He's up there. They just wouldn't be able to shoot at all without him, I think. Like, and I guess this is kind of an offense over defense thing. And I guess maybe it's true with the Bucks as well without Giannis and without Middleton. But like, man, dude, you got Christian Wood and Maxi Kleber, but their points per possession without Luka on the floor is like in the 7th percentile. It's like the Thunder. These numbers look a lot like the Thunder without SGA, but instead of SGA, which brings them to like fine when he's on the court, with Luka on the court, like all of a sudden their shooting numbers look like great if you are the Mavericks. So. And that's not quite the case with Giannis. Like it's definitely a gap, but the gap is a little bit bigger with Luka. But again, that the defensive side of the court is one that, you know, Giannis definitely has a very clear edge in. So I do think that Luka is the most valuable offensive player in the league right now, and I would put Giannis at most valuable defensive player in the league right now. And I think like I would prioritize offense over defense a little bit, but I could definitely be talked into a lot of different players right now. But
Luka is taking the most shots per game in the league right now.
His usage rate is crazy too. That's the other thing.
And he's hitting like 50%.
Giannis's is also
on taking the most shots in the league, shooting 50%.
It's not just that. I forget where I heard this stat, but they're talking about the ISO rate of Luka is like unbelievable. They just give it to Luka and say, go get us a bucket and an insane amount. So I agree. Luka's right there, but I've probably got Giannis right now just because his usage rate is right there with his, and he's also being crazy efficient.
They're both in the 100th percentile. Yeah.
All right. It's like these are two people maybe overuse the term MVP season because like MVP season is like, it's another level even on top of playing like really, really great. I think when people say MVP season, they mean like all NBA first team season. Both these guys, as of right now, are having MVP seasons.
Right.
Yeah. We'll know more later, but right now I lean Luka, but Giannis is right there too. Giannis's, I think, playmaking as a big has been a little bit better than Luka because, like you said, they just give him the ball in ISO. Luka has a high assist rate, but it is literally because he just holds the ball that much. Like he's just bound to pick up a few. I think like Luka's really not, like, considering how much he's gotten used. His like, if Chris Paul had that much use rate like this, you'd have like 50 assists a game, right? So Giannis has had some playmaking, I think, and he's prioritizing feeding the teammates a little bit more than Luka is, who, like you said, Matt, has had some crazy, they're just giving it to him and letting him cook. But maybe that's MVP. Maybe that's an MVP thing as well. So I have no idea.
I mean, it's like, also who else are you going to go to? Right.
The Mavericks are an interesting team help wise. They're a little bit all over the place. I'm interested to see what they do going forward, but I get it with like Luka has no real second star. I think saying Luka has no help is a little, there's some good role players on that team. There's some good guys who are like kind of bridging that gap and can do some things themselves. Obviously, if you take them off the team, they would suck. But that's true for most teams' best player, actually. Right. That's true for like about 50% of teams. It's if I took your best player, you wouldn't be good anymore.
Yeah. And I guess I could say the same for the Bucks with like, they still do have Drew Holiday and Brook Lopez and Portis, which are all like fine role players as well. But it's really close. I don't know. I'm not going to die on either hill. I would vote for Luka if I had to vote, but I don't
Speaking of second stars, though, is Desmond Bane the key second piece next to Ja Morant? That's the real question.
He's pretty darn good. He's been playing real good. I watched the Grizzlies last night. I wish Ja Morant could win MVP. He's not the MVP, but I wish he could win it. He is unbelievable. I was talking a little bit. The narratives around him are just so stupid, and I've realized it's like, okay, well, he doesn't make his teammates better, which Nobody does. Nobody just makes their teammates better. This is the stupidest NBA narrative going around. Really great players get a lot of defensive attention, and it makes it easier for the rest of their teammates. It does not make them better players, but it makes things look better, and like their shooting percentage.
It maximizes their potential, really. Right.
It gives them easier looks, you know? Or I guess there's the idea that like, you know, Michael Jordan used to just tell his teammates like, hey, you need to be better or I hate you. And then they would go be better. And why can't you do that? But like Morant is a good playmaker. And I don't know how you would prove the second one. So what are people like looking for out of Morant? The only answer can be that they've seen this stat that, oh, well, the Grizzlies are better without Morant. Well, I think that speaks more to the Grizzlies being really awesome than Morant being bad. Because I watch him and I say, this guy is not bad. This guy is not making the team worse. And that's common sense.
Right.
So with Desmond Bane being the second star, I don't know. He's very good, but as like a number 2 on a championship team, maybe he's not quite there yet. I thought Jaren Jackson Jr. looked fantastic last night, though. He had some ridiculous blocks.
A second star is basically another top 15 player in the league, basically. Like that's kind of what a second star is.
Yeah.
It's
we wouldn't put Desmond Bane
on
the ranking quiz is basically what you're.
I guess last year the Warriors didn't have anybody at that. Like, can he
and
be
the year
Wiggins?
before that? I would not say that the Bucks had. I don't think Chris Middleton was a top 15 NBA player. And the year before that, I wouldn't say that Toronto did. And then you have the Warriors, super teams.
Yes.
And then
so maybe that's unfair. Maybe that's unfair. But then you would need Ja to be Curry, or you would need Ja to be Giannis, which like he's great, but I'm not sure if he's that great. So I don't know. He's Desmond Bane has been just insane off the charts shooting. He hasn't been turning the ball over. He's been a good playmaker. He has been everything. Like check all the boxes. Like he's done it all. And I think that the Grizzlies ceiling is much higher. So yeah, and in the West, the same deal that we were talking about with the Trailblazers. Like I would take the Grizzlies over the Warriors right now, or the Clippers, or the Lakers, or any of the other teams with maybe like all these crazy stars. So yeah, I mean, I think that their ceiling, can they be the Jazz from years past, like that had Mitchell and Gobert and a bunch of great role players and were well coached? Like they can probably be at that level. Can they be at the level of the Suns the past couple of years, which maybe didn't have, the Giannis's of the world, the Currys of the world, but still have been a complete buzzsaw in the regular season? Like I worried that before the season that they would fall off and their depth after losing Melton and Kyle Anderson wouldn't rise to the challenge. They'd be relying too much on rookies. But the way Bane is played, I think that they can be as dangerous as they were last year in a worse Western Conference, and that puts their ceiling pretty high. I think is where I'm at with them.
The difference between the Grizzlies being like one of those really good teams that has some nice playoff runs but never like makes the finals, and the Grizzlies being like one of those teams where, yeah, they don't have like a second top 15 player, but they can go win a finals, is Ja Morant being like a top 5 player in the NBA. That's the difference. That's what I'd be watching for, because I know the rest of the team is doing the whole thing where it's like you got a bunch of guys who play real hard and they've all got very well-rounded skill sets, and you've got the great defense. Like you've got the team built. But when we talk about the teams built that maybe, only have one real like top 15 guy, top 20 guy, we're talking about the Warriors, the Bucks, the Raptors with Kawhi and Giannis and Curry. You have to be that good. It's hard to win a title without that guy, especially with the way that they're built. So I think he's on his way to it. He keeps getting better. So that's what I'd be excited about. But I think Desmond Bane, if that's your number 2 with how well-rounded this team is, yeah, I think it could work.
What does that look like to you? Like, what is a top 5 Ja Morant look like to you? How will we know when that happen? Like, is it better 3-point shooting? Is it better finishing? Is it better playmaking? Like, what is an area of his game do you think that
get better at finish? I guess I
think that his finishing may be okay. I think it's consistency. Yeah. I think it's when he becomes like such a consistent, like positive threat from the perimeter, from three. And he hit this one really nice three where it was just a contested pull up and he just fired it immediately and he made it. And he was really going off last night. When the perimeter game becomes consistent like that, and it's been up and down, it's been improving, but it's been up and down. When it's like that, once you get in the playoffs, and if he can keep that up, I'm talking like pushing like 40% from three. If he could get there, there is no way to stop it. There would be no way to guard it. So that's I guess what I would say.
Okay. And that's where he's at. Like, he's shooting about that right now. He's shooting about that.
That's where he's at. Granted, very early in the season, but
right.
Yeah.
48. So just can he keep this up?
It is. I mean,
yeah.
Or when maybe the funnier way to put it is like when he starts. You know how you say he has, all these almost highlights. When all of those start actually becoming highlights every single time, then he's a top 5 player. But it's totally possible.
Jolmost Morant.
He's Jolmost him,
Yes.
Theo, you brought to our attention today an interview of Kevin Durant on Bleacher Report, and we had not seen it up until the moment that you brought it.
It was published early today, and he had an interview. Yeah, I didn't see what the interview you thought that I was talking about, which was his post game against the Kings. I was
like, I guess that's cool. I guess we can talk about that. This one from
it was
Bleacher
3 minutes
Report?
long. And it's just like, they beat us. I was like, why does he want to talk about this? So
he's just chatty.
This one is far more interesting.
Following the Kings, he's just very, very chatty, and he is. Look, it's not his fault. It's not his fault. All right. It is not his fault that Ben Simmons never plays. It is not his fault that Kyrie has gotten suspended. It is not his fault that the role players aren't there. He very much wants to make this clear. He very much wants to make it clear that this is none of this is his fault. And that is why he is being chatty right now, because they just lost 153 to 120 or whatever it was last night. Yeah. And he's going through the PR rounds right now is how I take this.
Speaking of which, the Kings are one of the best scoring teams in the league right now. Just want to throw that out there.
De'Aaron Fox, since about January of last year, has been, I think, a very good player and has been improving as a shooter, which is kind of the main thing that he needed to do. Sadly, they still traded away the wrong guy in Halliburton, who's been like absolutely nuts.
They
off
really
the charts
messed up with that, man. I think about that all the time.
They could be so good. They could be so
Halliburton is so good.
He's so good. But De'Aaron Fox this year, like BLAIDEN, he has been he's improved as a free throw shooter. He's improved as a 3-point shooter since about January of last year. That started to get better. And he's crazy athletic. He's like
it's not that they traded away the wrong guy. I think they just shouldn't have traded him. Like, they should have just kept Fox and Halliburton. That's what I would have done. That's what I really mean. And,
yes.
I have a hard time feeling bad for Kevin Durant, honestly. Like, the Kyrie stuff is not his fault. Although maybe pick your best buddies a little bit better, but
yeah,
I'm not going to this has gotten significantly worse since he's been on the Nets. But that whole team culture is all messed up, and he's had a big hand in building that team and the coaching hires and all of that. And then, if he can talk all he wants about his legacy, but the best way to improve his legacy would just be to win more.
Yeah.
And he's been in nothing but honestly, pretty talented situations his whole career. And he's super talented, and I don't know. I think the whole Nets, if I were him, I would demand a trade. I wouldn't screw around with this anymore, but I'd say I'm not playing again.
All I'm saying is the quote of "look at our starting lineup" Edmund Summer, Royce O'Neal, Joe Harris, Nick Claxton, and me. It's not disrespect, but what are you expecting from this group?
It is disrespect. You're
That
a
is an
huge jerk for doing
insane
that.
quote.
Yeah.
That is a wild quote. That is an absolutely ridiculous thing to say.
Especially when there's some good role players in that group. I understand it's like not what you want it to be, and it's not, whatever, but it's, dude, I don't know. I'm so sick of hearing about Kevin Durant's legacy. Oh my God.
In the same breath, to be like, everyone wants to talk about my leadership, but like they don't know what's actually going on. Actually, you just threw the rest of your team under the bus, now. Yeah, so I do know a little something about your leadership, like in that he comes across as a guy who wants to lead by example. He said, like, I want to be pushed. I want you to point the finger at me. I want to be in the film room, critiqued hard. I want to practice hard. And I believe all of that. I truly believe all of that about Kevin Durant. And I think
most
that
professional athletes believe that.
And I think that he believes that that's enough from a leadership perspective, is like, I can just lead by example and not say anything. Kyrie is saying all these crazy things, and he says, who am I to say what he can and can't think? Like, that's a grown ass man, right? That's what he says. I'm not going to talk to him. But like, someone needs to, like, he is being a liability right now and hurting the team and putting them in a huge spotlight. Like, someone's like, to just sit by and just let him really like throw the season off the rails is like, well, it's not good leadership. It's not like you can say, is it my place? Is it, I don't know. There are some athletes in history and there are some personalities in history that I think would say Kyrie, like, I don't even think, like, even if they agree or don't about what he's saying, I think there are some athletes in history who would pull him aside and be like, dude, shut the fuck up and play some basketball. Like, you can think all of this, you can put but dude, we have a mission here. And Durant's just not the type of.
I hate MJ's stands for being like, oh, Michael Jordan wouldn't let that slide. Michael Jordan wouldn't let this slide.
I don't know if he would or not. I just feel like there are guys like, just, there might be a little bit of a responsibility on you to make sure like Kyrie doesn't say these things. And as the best player, as the best player in the world, potentially, and the leader of this team, to be like, let's get together as a unit and let's tighten the fuck up. Let's tighten up. Let's get together. Let's not go off on all these side quests. Like, let's just play some like call that meeting, have that players only meeting, have all of that, and just say something like that. That to me is make a group chat. I don't know, like, and say this culture is bad. We're losing because of it. I don't know, but just saying nothing isn't like it. It is worthy of criticism to me. Like, there is something to be said for actually like saying something to Kyrie. That's not like, yes, he's a grown ass man who can make his own decisions. No one's saying that he's not, but there is some bravery in taking, in huddling everybody up and saying like, plus it's just like what Kyrie's saying, like, is anti-Semitic, and just like standing up against that too. Right. That's a whole nother thing where it's like, you should, put in a good word for the Jewish people or something, or be like, yo, Kyrie, what you were saying is, it's not like he's saying, I voted for, so-and-so in the election, or you'd think this is like, it's legitimately what he's saying is harmful. So that adds a whole nother layer to like what he's saying is as being bad and worthy of being yelled at from a teammate, right? And Durant's not doing any of that. And I don't know. It's just a PR tour. It's just none of this is my fault. Kyrie is doing his Kyrie thing, and none of my teammates aren't that good. My coaching, there's just the coaching change, but before the coaching wasn't good. And my legacy is that I make and then he goes off to say, well, my legacy is what I taught my teammates. Right. Yeah, and I'm me. It's like,
okay. I don't know. I have a hard time feeling bad for Kevin Durant. Just because it's like, well, I'm sure that none of this is your fault at all. And he's still a very good player, but it's actually everybody else who sucks. And the Steve Nash hire, who we all know Kevin Durant had absolutely no say in. And then also we actually don't need a head coach. And they just like, you got to buy in. People, this team has not been bought in a long time.
Right.
I feel bad for James Harden.
Yeah.
He didn't know what he was getting himself into.
No, James Harden.
James Harden, that is a man that just wants to play basketball.
He's
I don't know if he just wants to play basketball, but
it depends on what city he's in at the time that they're playing basketball.
He doesn't want to be in Brooklyn, and I can't blame him for that. I'll say that.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we wrap up, we of course have to hit the NFL game of the week this week. I think there's really only two options here. And really you could argue that there might only be one. But I'm going to pitch the idea of Chiefs Chargers. This is the third straight.
Brother.
This is the third straight Chiefs Chargers primetime game.
Which is valid considering the stars on those teams, by the way. Like, I get why they scheduled it.
But if it's going to be like no Mike Williams, no Keenan Allen, is it like really going to be that much of a show? Or is it just going to be the Chiefs running away with it?
It's going to be the Chiefs running away with it, I fear. I mean, like we talked about on the live, the Chargers can't do anything. They can't run and they can't stretch the field. So if we had Steven Ruiz on as a guest, and I'm kind of just ripping his tweet from the Twitter and just putting it in vocal form here. So shout out him. But like he said, they can't stretch the field and they can't run the football. So you can be in a one high shell and have a bunch of guys in the box. Chargers can't punish that because they have no one on the outside. Maybe Mike Williams comes back this week, but even then, like there's no one stacking the corners and like winning vertically. Like Mike Williams can win, but it takes a lot of faith, right? Because he's covered, and you're going to throw it up to him. And if you have a single high,
and if you have single high, like I'm just like shading to Mike Williams' side every time.
Go to Mike Williams' side, right?
Yeah. It's just...
So you can do that and you're not too scared of getting burned. Like Justin Herbert might be able to get you a couple times, but you could go too high too and just take away Justin Herbert entirely and make them run between the tackles. And they suck at doing that too. Like as much hype as Austin Eckler gets, like he is, they suck at running the football and they suck at going between the tackles. So all they could do is check it down to Austin Eckler where he legitimately is good as a receiver in space. So they just don't have answers. They don't have any answers. So the Chiefs have a million answers and they can do whatever they want all the time because they have Patrick Mahomes. I guess they don't have a million because they can't really run the football, but like, are the Chargers the team to really punish that? I don't know if this is game of the week. The Chargers are just too hurt. Real game of the week is the one I'll be attending. I'll be attending game of the week. The Packers season turnaround starts today. Okay. Or it started last week.
Is it game of the week because you're going to be there, or is it game of the week?
It's just game of the week because of everything, man. Like, we've got the Christian Watson potential breakout here, which I'm not sure that I buy. But you've got Rodgers. They just played a good defense in Dallas, played a bunch of cover one against them. They got Micah Parsons. They got DeMarcus Lawrence. People were talking about that as a top 5 unit and a contender in the NFC. Packers beat them. The Packers beat them. That could be the momentum they need to go for. Now they're playing another great defense, right? And if Rodgers can play well again, and if they can continue to beat all that cover one and still run the football against a very good front, just like they did last week against Dallas, if they can do that 2 weeks in a row, I'm going to start to believe that this team can contend for the wild card spot again in the NFC, because there's just not that many teams in the NFC that are out of range, even still, as the season has been a complete disaster. So that wild card spot is still in range, and I will start to believe again if the Packers can win this game. So that's why it's game of the week. And it's the game that could give Theo some hope. It's the game that could give me some hope, or just slam the door shut as they go to 3-4-7 or whatever, 4-8 or whatever.
It'll also matter. I think like
4-8.
If we get more like 7. Malik Willis, that could be a pretty damning thing for Tennessee. I mean, Tannehill has not.
We're not getting any.
Hey, if Tannehill gets hurt again,
that's the other thing. If. And I was thinking about this, like, what teams in the league are worse situations for a rookie quarterback than the Tennessee Titans? Which ones are worse?
As far as like weapons?
As far as like situations to run into. Are the Titans the worst?
I'm trying to think.
I mean, if you could sit behind Tannehill, I don't think that's a bad situation. I think what makes it a bad situation is they have no goddamn receivers to throw to.
Or line.
Houston would not be great.
Houston would not be great, but Tennessee is up there. I don't know. This offense has not run into a lot of great. They haven't beat a lot of very good teams lately, I would say. So the Titans have a great record right now, but they are kind of constantly sitting on fraud watch because of their, because of their record, or not because of their record, because of their like overall talent level on offense and because of the schedule they've faced. So anytime they come up against a Packers team that could, I don't even know if they're good, but potentially be good, it's a good gauge of where Tennessee is at. Like, and they've passed some of their tests so far. Like their defense played great against Tennessee. I buy into that. But I'm not sold on them despite their record as being as good as their record. So it's always a good gauge when you get Titans against teams that aren't, Houston and the other teams in their division, which aren't all that good. So
that division is not exactly
this
a
one.
buzzsaw.
This is a good benchmark game for both teams. It's one that, could turn the Packers season around or slam it shut. And it's a good benchmark for the Titans against a team that still has Aaron Rodgers, a team that still has Jair-Alexander, a team that still has, Kenny Clark and should, even without Rashawn Gary, does have a decent defense. We'll see. But I think this one's game of the week. I anticipate a game. It'll be interesting because they have the best run defense in football, and the Packers, like their identity now is running the football. And if you're going to can they beat zone coverage? Like, because Watson beat tons of man last week, but is he smart enough? Is he nuanced enough to like sit in those zones and really punish them by dinking and dunking their way down the field? Because they haven't been able to do that without messing up and taking a sack or, getting incompletions chemistry matters a lot for this Green Bay team. So we'll see if they can. It'll be especially important in this game because the running game probably won't be there like it's been in past weeks against Jeffrey Simmons. I assume Jeffrey Simmons is back. I think so. I hope so. I want to see him live because I love him so much. He's limited in practice. He's questionable. So we'll see. But
okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just got the notification that Tannehill was just taken off the IR.
Yeah, he'll play. So. I just think it'll be interesting to see where the Packers passing offense is if this team can take away their run. If the Titans can take away their rushing attack,
just
I
like
think
the
they can.
Report, not like
yes,
the
can. Are these real strides we're seeing from Christian Watson and the Packers passing offense, or was that just a flash in the pan against a team that played a crazy amount of cover one and got a little bit more than they bargained for? So that's where I'm at.
Matt, what do you think the game of the week is? I'm kind of surprised that THEO didn't say Dallas Vikings because of the amount of man that they ran last week. It's like, are they going to do that against Justin Jefferson? I don't know.
I still would.
Yeah,
I still would run that much man against the Vikings because Thielen and KJ Osborne, like, they're not that good against them. And Justin Jefferson, like, there were some plays where Dane Jackson was covering him well, and then he just, caught it anyway. So
Diggs is athletic enough to stick with him. It's just, is he going to be disciplined enough to not jump the gun on all those?
And I guess the problem is like Diggs is playing well this year, but they put Jefferson in the slot a lot. They'll go up in 11 personnel, and so then you match it with nickel, and then they'll go out like an empty, and they'll put Jefferson in the slot, and they'll be on Anthony Barr. It wouldn't surprise me if you saw that matchup in this game. So like that's what makes it tough to play man. And the Bills did a lot of it because they've got some freak linebackers who can like maybe potentially sort of hold up in man. But I will be interested to see how Dallas adjusts. They played so much man last week and they got burned. Are they going to continue to live in that world against another team that has struggled versus man this season, but has looked better recently after the addition of Hawkinson? Or are they going to be like, we're going to zone and we're going to see if we can get some pressure. And I'm interested to see the tackles. This has been a tough test 2 weeks in a row. Like if Darisaw can handle Micah Parsons or DeMarcus Lawrence, then I've got to make a video on him anyway, but I certainly will after this week if they do a good job.
Matt, what's your game of the week?
Well, I guess that one. I don't know. It's that or Chiefs Chargers.
Yeah.
I've already talked about all three.
I guess that's fair.
Dallas's offense versus, I'd like to see them bounce They didn't even have a bad game versus the Packers. Like they scored 4 touchdowns and put up plenty of points. But there were some picks, so we'll see if they can get a little bit more on the same page. They got the Donatell. I think Dak could shred this team because they play less man than anyone else in the league, and they are just sitting at 2 high structures. And Dak is the guy you want picking guys apart. Like Dak is the guy you want. He is so smart. People do not understand how like freaking smart Dak Prescott is and how he diagnoses things. So if you're going to come at him with a predictable offense or defense, like I think Minnesota is, the thing that the coverage is, you know what you're getting. There is some things with the front, like there's some weird stuff they do with Za'Darius Smith and like where is he going to be? But if he knows what the coverage is, if he knows it's going to be zone all the time, and it is going to be zone all the time, I say look for a big game from Dak Prescott here. I think this one, yeah.
And they can also leave Zeke on the field to block if they're expecting a lot of like weird stunts and stuff.
Right. They've got a good blocking running back at Zeke. So is he back?
Oh,
yes.
That's
a good question. Yeah, it'll be an interesting matchup. It'll be interesting. I think the Cowboys win this one. I think that Dak is going to have a big game against this defense. I think that you just played a emotional like roller coaster game that went into overtime, and it played a lot of overtime and a bunch of snaps. I think the Cowboys are going to come in off the loss, and I think they're going to take this one. That's my prediction.
I think I would lean Dallas too, but we shall see. Theo, I wish you an amazing time at the Packers-Titans game. Hopefully you can stay a little bit warm. Matt, I hope you get to enjoy this beautiful snowy weather that we're having here in southwestern Ohio.
Curl up with your book.
I'll curl up with my book.
What book are you going to read?
So.
Oh, that's ruined.
I'm just messing around. I'm not going to curl up with a good book at all.
I'll send you some math proofs to read.
Sweet.
Yeah. Curl up with some Euler. But anyway, I think that pretty much wraps things up for us. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, tons and tons of content coming away on all platforms. Make sure you watch Matt's quarterback ranking tier list if you haven't already.
Skip the Justin Herbert part, though.
Skip the Justin. Make sure you watch Theo's All 22 on Justin Jefferson and whether or not his catch is the greatest of all time. And I will have my Madden Face of the Franchise video coming out Friday as well. But until then, thank you all so much for tuning in. And, of course, we'll be doing the AMP Live to discuss the Stay Hot locks. So tune into that. But until next time, as always, from Corn Boy, Bird Boy, and Lemon Boy, we will catch you all on the flippity flop.